Most people who feel financially stuck are waiting for the same thing: more income, a raise, a promotion, a better job, or a side hustle that finally takes off. The income increase that will finally give them enough room to save properly or invest consistently and stop feeling like money runs out before the month does. And some of those people are right. If your income genuinely doesn't cover your basic needs, more income is the correct solution. In this video, isn't about you, but a surprising number of people who believe they need more income would be transformed financially, and not by earning more, but by one specific change to how they handle their income they already have. And here's what that change is and why it works when everything else hasn't. And when it's available to you right now, regardless of what your employer decides to do about your salary. And why income increases alone don't fix the problem. The most reliable test of whether more income is the actual solution to your financial situation is this: what happened the last time your income increased? If the last raise you received, whether it was a 3% or a 30%, produced a proportional improvement in your savings rate and your debt balance and your financial security, then yes, more income is the lever and you should pursue it aggressively. But if the last income increase was absorbed by lifestyle expansions or higher rent, a better car, or more frequent dining up or upgraded subscriptions, and you find yourself in roughly the same financial position relative to your expenses as before the increase, then income is not your binding constraint. The constraint is the gap between income and intentional spending, and that gap can be widened two ways: by increasing the numerator, income, or by managing the denominator, spending and financial architecture. Most people focus entirely on the numerator and ignore the denominator, which is why income increases frequently produce no lasting improvement in financial position. The denominator expands to match every increase in the numerator if nothing else changes. And what you actually need, the margin system. The things most people need instead of a raise is a margin system, a deliberate, automated structure that creates financial breathing room for existing income by ensuring that a meaningful percentage of every paycheck is building something before expenses have a chance to consume it. The margin system has three components, all of which need to be in place simultaneously to produce the effect that feels like a raise without the raise. And the first component is the savings automation that removes money from the spending pool before the decisions are made. The second is a sinking fund structure that eliminates the irregular expenses, the car maintenance, the medical costs, the annual subscriptions, the home repairs that currently arrive as financial emergencies because they have no dedicated allocation. And the third is a spending visibility practice that converts unconscious purchasing to from a default into a deliberate choice. When all three are in place, something specific happens. And to the experience of your current income, it feels like more, not because you're earning more, but because the money is doing more. And a portion of it is building towards future security, and the irregular expenses are absorbed without crisis, and the discretionary spending that remains is chosen rather than defaulted into. The financial anxiety that feels like an income problem dissolves when the architecture behind it produces predictability, and predictability is what an income increase was supposed to buy. The margin system provides it at no additional earnings. Component number one, the first dollar commitment. The savings automation has to happen first before any other spending, and it has to be sized at a level that's genuinely meaningful without being so aggressive that it creates cash flow problems. And that undermines the whole system. And for most people, the right starting size is 10% of take home pay, automated on the day the paycheck arrives, not 10% of gross, not percent of 10% of what you think you should be earning. 10% would actually hit your account on the day it arrives into a savings account or at a separate institution before any other financial activity occurs. The reason the separate institution matters is money in a savings account at the same bank as your checking account is psychologically one transfer away from being spent. Money at an ally or a Marcus or a credit union that that requires a 3-day transfer is psychologically different. It has left, it is elsewhere, it is not available as a casual option, and the friction of retrieving it is low enough to be, surmountable in a genuine emergency and high enough to prevent it from being absorbed by casual overspending in a difficult week. And at 10%, a person earning $50,000 take home is saving $5,000 per year. That is not retirement security. It is the foundation on which retirement security is built. The emergency fund that grows into a buffer, the investment account that begins compounding the psychological shift from zero savings to consistently saving, that changes the financial identity from someone who doesn't save to someone who does. Component number 2, the sinking fund stack. The financial emergencies that make income feel insufficient are almost never truly unexpected. They are predictable events, car repairs or medical copays, holiday spending, annual insurance renewals, home maintenance, and the arrival on a regular schedule and hit the monthly budget as crises because they have no dedicated allocation. The sinking fund stack is a set of separate named savings buckets, either separate accounts or separate designated allocations within one account, each receiving a monthly contribution sized to cover the expected annual costs of the category divided by 12. A car maintenance fund receiving $100 per month is ready for a $600 repair or a $400 in tires without the month's budget being thrown into a deficit. A medical fund receiving $50 per month absorbs a $600 dental bill over the year rather than as a single blow. The immediate effect of building the sinking fund stack is that the irregular expenses stop being emergencies, and like the car repair arrives and the fund covers it. The month continues, the checking account doesn't go into a deficit, and the credit card balance doesn't increase. The financial anxiety around those specific events, which is a meaningful component of the total financial stress most people carry, and largely disappears. The total monthly contribution to the sinking fund stack is typically $200 to $400 for a household with moderate or regular expenses, combined with 10% first dollar savings. The total monthly financial building is $600 to $1,000 for someone earning $50,000. A savings and security rate that feels impossible before the system is in place and unremarkable once the automation makes it invisible. Component number 3, the weekly 15 minutes. The spending visibility practice doesn't require a budget in the traditional sense. It requires 15 minutes per week and a simple question: what did I spend on things that I didn't plan to spend on this week? And would I spend on them again if I were making the choice now? Not a judgment, a review. Pull the last 7 days of transactions and look at the unplanned items and evaluate each one for whether it reflected a genuine preference or a default. The fast food purchases, the convenience store items, the app purchases, the subscription charges you forgot about, the small online orders that accumulated because online shopping frictionlessly fills low energy moments. The review doesn't tell you to stop spending on things now, or stop spending on things you genuinely value. It makes spending visible, which is the only condition under which deliberate choices are possible. And uh, most conscious, spending is not spending. You'd consciously choose 15 minutes of a weekly visibility converts a meaningful fraction of in spending into choices, and those choices made with awareness consistently produce less spending than the default. The weekly review has a secondary benefit. It catches the subscriptions, the auto renewals, and the reoccurring charges that the previous video covered in detail. Things that are invisible stay hidden until they're reviewed. 15 minutes per week makes them visible. And what the system produces over time. The margin system. First, dollar savings plus sinking fund stack plus weekly visibility produces something specific that income increases rarely produce on their own: financial momentum. And the case sense that the money is going somewhere deliberate, that the trajectory is improving, that the future financial self is being actively built rather than passively hoped for. A person earning 50,000 who implements the system is saving $5,000 per year, absorbing all or regular expenses without crisis and reducing discretionary leakage through visibility. And after 2 years, an emergency fund. After 5 years, the beginning of a real investment position. And after 10 years, a financial foundation that most people with significant higher incomes don't have, because the income without the system just produced a more expensive version of the same financial anxiety. And the raise would be nice. Take it if you can, get it in, automate 50% of the after tax increase into the same system immediately. But the raise without the system produces the same outcome it always has: temporary relief followed by lifestyle expansion. That absorbs the new income and returns you to the same financial position at a higher cost of living. And the system without the raise produces financial security. And that's the better starting point. It's also the one you can start today. Thanks for watching. If you really got some value to this video, please hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.